Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Gateway to Grace call. My name's Elizabeth Tobin, and each month I do these repatternings around relationships. And the reason why I focus on relationships, number one, is because we're always in relationship, whether it's relationship with ourself, with the people in our lives, with the world around us, relationship with the divine, relationship with work, with money, with purpose, with ourselves. And Brene Brown said something about connection that really piqued my interest, and it really resonated with me, that connection is everything. It's what makes life worthwhile living. It gives us meaning. We are social creatures as human beings, and relationships are important. We're hardwired to have that connection, to have that kind of interaction, that human interaction. The studies have been done with primates who don't get any interaction, who don't get any attention. And it's been shown that connection is a basic life need, not only for we humans, but for other beings on the planet as well. So that's why I like to focus on relationships. And today we're going to look at relationships specifically through the lens of family patterns, societal patterns, because our family shapes who we are, the society that we grow up in shapes who we are, and we inherit these patterns that sometimes they serve us and sometimes they don't. And so we'll be looking at the patterns that need to change within ourselves in order for us to experience more connection and harmony in our relationships. So welcome. So I'd just like to take a little pause before we move into the repatterning. And taking a pause can be a way to create space in your day if you feel overwhelmed. Just taking a pause, taking a couple of breaths, checking in with yourself can really help you to ground and center, so you stay present for all of your interactions throughout the day. So just take a couple of breaths and feel your feet on the floor. Feel yourself supported by the chair that you're in, or if you're sitting on the ground, by Mother Earth. Good. So, Janine has asked to proxy in Alan. Yes, we can do that if he gives his permission. And I heard from a number of people who couldn't be on the call today who asked to be included in the session. And so they will be included as we do the session. And then what I do is I send out the link. If you're on my email list, I send out the link so you can get it on YouTube, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to get on my mailing list, you can go to liztobin.com, and there's a contact form there. Elaine has asked to proxy in Paul. Okay. Very good. Okay, so let's see where we need to go today. So at this time, it's best for us just to move right into the session. No, okay. It's best for us to open it up to any input that people might have from the group. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what is up for you in your relationships? What brought you to the call today, or what are you hoping to change in your relationships, or what would you like to experience in relationship?
I could say something.
Yes, Shelby.
Um, so I want to change the relationship I have with the PTSD that I'm experiencing. I got attacked by two pit bulls and a hound dog, and I took them to court. I won the case. They claimed bankruptcy, and then the dog still kept on coming, and the dog came at me last night.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah. So your relationship with the PTSD
And the people that are
and
the
the,
owners, and just the whole, I'm going to go meditate for 3 days, and I think it'd be very difficult if I have this energy of something coming towards me like the animal did last night.
mm, yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Leanne?
Am I unmuted? Just the basic thing of trust in a relationship and believing, you believe a person's words and then you have to look at the actions. But the paranoia from the past of people not being truthful can get in the way
Mm-hmm.
of the present.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else have something you'd like to put into the mix today?
I don't exactly know how to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Go for it, Morningstar.
Um, I noticed in all of my relationships over the years with my husband, it's decreased, but it's not unique to him. That in all my relationships, what comes out from me is about 20 times thousand more than what comes in. My
Mm,
son, who lives 100 miles away, will drive hundreds of miles to see his dad, but he says to me, "Well, there's nothing in Grass Valley for me, so I don't come up there.
What?
But I'd love to see you when you come to Davis." So I feel like I have somewhere in my family patterns, there's this structure of pour it out. And of course, my work has been to be delighted with whatever comes back and not have any expectations or judgments or disappointments. I mean, not that they don't happen, but just not key into them. So it just feels like I have an old pattern that's very painful.
yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like what you're describing is a lack of reciprocity or mutuality, that you're putting out more than you're able to receive. So yeah, we can look at that. Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Yeah. Yeah.
I could just add Morningstar. I live in Grass Valley too.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I have a relationship with my son that I've reached out and haven't got the same thing. So I'd like to add my relationship with my son Jordan into the mix. And I'd love to have tea with you sometime, Morningstar.
I would really like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
I don't know how to do it, but it would be lovely.
Okay.
Excellent. Good. Good. Yeah. Well, let's see where we need to go with this. So we've got a few different aspects that people have brought up, and we'll see whether there's a common thread here, what that common thread might be. So I'm just going to check here. There's something that we need to do from orientation, problems into opportunities, an intention for a new possibility. There's a repatterning that we need to look at. Yes. Okay. And the repatterning that's needed is something from A, B, C, D, E, F, something from G, H, I, J, And it's number 1, number 2. Okay, so this is healing the family system. And the repatterning that's needed here is number 1. Yeah, this is the repatterning for giving. Interesting. Okay. So the repatterning for giving. And there's something we need to hear from the introduction. Yes. Something from here. Yeah. So giving in a coherent and positive way is an art which requires ability. We give coherently when those things that we offer nourish, benefit, and strengthen others. Even though we have the best intentions, sometimes what we give can hurt others by detracting from their strength and their power. This is why it's important to be aware of a certain order so that our good intentions are in line with coherent actions. So let's see, there's something more that we need to hear from the introduction. Yes, something from here, 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 here. Okay, so the first order is give only what we have and take only what we need. And disorder can occur when we want to give what we do not have, or when we give by occupying a place or carrying a burden that belongs to somebody else. Then what happens to the others? They're affected very deeply. So we carry their problem and it feels to them like we're trying to fix them. And then the help that we give is what we'd like to receive, right? Kind of like the do unto others, is a little spin on that. So this means that we give others what we need to receive. And then we stop seeing others as separate or independent people. And let's see, there's something more we need to look at here. No, yeah. So that's interesting because, you know, a very deeply ingrained societal, cultural pattern for most people is the golden rule. I'm sure that everybody has heard it at least once in their life, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? And yet, there's an aspect here in terms of when we give to others what we don't necessarily have, or when we try to give to others what we don't have, it can be very draining for us. And it also puts us not in the place of the giver, but also the place of the receiver. So we're occupying two places. And so it's not a clean or sort of a straightforward interaction. It gets messy. Yeah, Leanne.
I don't understand what you just said about the giver and the receiver, that you're in both situations.
Yeah, so if you're trying to give something that you don't have, so say that you're giving somebody out of compassion, you're giving them some time, right? But you're also pressed for time. right? So you don't really have the time to give to them, but you kind of feel like out of compassion and maybe even a little sense of responsibility or perhaps even guilt that you have to sort of attend to them. But you don't really have the time to do it, right? So that creates kind of a messy interaction, right? Because you're giving them time, but you don't really have the time to give them. And so oftentimes we want to receive something back, right? And that puts us in the place of the giver and the receiver. So we're in two separate places, but when we give without expectation and we give from a place of fullness that we have whatever resources we're trying to give to the other person, then that puts us in the giver's place and the other person can occupy the receiver's place. And it's a much more balanced, clean interaction. Does that make sense? And it's interesting that, we talked about reciprocity in relationship. And Morningstar had mentioned, giving much more than what she receives back. And Shelby mentioned about, reaching out to her son and not getting a response. And then it's interesting because then on the other hand, we've got like too much attention with the dogs, right? Shelby would like the dogs just, leave me alone, but they're, coming at her. So there's something here about reciprocity. And then, yeah, we'll see what we need to do next here. So there's anything more we need to hear from the introduction? No. Okay. So what I want you to do is take a little pause and just think about a relationship. That is problematic for you. A relationship in which you believe you don't give what nourishes and benefits other people, or they don't receive it. And think about what is the problem around giving? What problem do you have around giving in a way that benefits others? And I'm thinking of what Leanne said at the beginning around trust. Believing a person. And also seeing a person clearly when their words and actions don't align. And also seeing them clearly free of that lens of the past. And so the first pattern that we need to switch on is around giving. Giving what benefits the other. So that once we're resonating with giving what benefits the other person, then they're much more likely to receive it in the way that you mean to give it, in a beneficial way. So there's something we need from here. Yeah, so it's 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. So this is about assuming responsibility for the other person when it's not our responsibility to assume. And so repeat after me. Say, I assume responsibility, and then and you fill in the blank with the person that you, or the relationship that you had identified for this session. Yeah. And that's resonating. And there's something from here. Yeah, so this is looking at another pattern that we need to shift. And it's something here from 1 through 5. Number 1, number 2. I have control and power over what happens to blank. And then you fill in the blank with that person. I have control and power over what happens to them. And so this might make perfect sense to you. It may not. And so if it doesn't make sense to you, I invite you to contemplate where these statements might be true in your relationship, how they might be true, how they might be true for you. And it might be something that you're not even aware that you do. But even just asking the question and being open to the exploration, my sense is that you'll get some insights. Maybe today, maybe in a couple of days. Yeah, Leanne.
Are we touching on codependency here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So let's see what else we need here. There's something from this one. So this is another pattern that we need to shift. And it's something here from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. And it's number 1, 2. I take the place of their parent. And so when we're giving in a non-coherent way, it might feel to the other person that we are trying to put our place in the parent's place. We're treating them like a child. And again, that's part of the codependent dynamic. So we started with, I give what benefits the person, and we're not resonating with that. And then we moved into identifying, I assume responsibility for them in a way that is not helpful. I have control and power over what happens to them. I take the place of their parent. Whew. So no wonder we don't receive back in a way that is nurturing to us. And again, these patterns are deeply ingrained, and oftentimes they're hidden from our awareness. And so this is an invitation to look more closely and maybe more critically at how we interact with others when we try to help. There's something from here that's needed. Yeah, so this is 1 through 5. Number 1, number 2, number 3. It's the first, it's the second. And so this next one is around taking into account differences when we give. And so the pattern that we need to shift here is, I divide the world into good and bad. So that doesn't leave any kind of area for nuance. And if we are dividing the world into good and bad, then it might be that we are sending the unconscious message that we know what's good. And if they don't agree with it, then they must be bad, or they're doing something bad. So you do it my way, or you're doing it wrong, that kind of thing. And then this is the perception that we need to change around the other person. Because sometimes it might seem that the other person has a problem, but when we change our resonance, then there's a change in the way that we perceive the other person. And that can open the space to a new relationship interaction, to a more harmonious, loving, more connected interaction. So there's something here from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7, 8. They expect me to tell them what to do. That's the pattern. And I see this with my private one-on-one clients. I've heard clients say, if I don't tell my partner it's trash day, they don't take out the trash unless I remind them, or I have to tell them like everything to do around the house, put your dishes in the dishwasher. It's, pick up your laundry. And so sometimes we can get into a pattern where we kind of feel like the other person expects us to tell them what to do. And that's not satisfying for either partner. So let's see here. There's something from here that's needed. It's 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. So now we're moving into the positive. What are the positive patterns that we need to switch on? So I only give to them what I have. That's the first one. I only give to them what I have. And you can feel there's a little bit of relief in that. It kind of takes the pressure off that we're not expected to give more than what we can. And there's something from here. Yeah, it's 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7, 8. And so this one is, I respect their circumstances and what they have lived through. And that gives them back their power and dignity and responsibility. And it also implies that we can take into account their own experience, knowing that they've been conditioned from their family in ways that we may not understand. And so there may be reasons why they do things the way that they do that we may not be aware of, that we may not agree with or understand. But we can respect that. And when we take that into account, it opens our perception so that we're not just looking at it from our own point of view. We make room for their family patterns, for their conditioning, for their point of view. And that creates respect and invites in reciprocity. Then there's something from here. Yeah, so the next one is 1 through 5. Number 1, 2. So the next one is, I relate to them as my equal. And a lot of times we can, without even knowing it, interact with people either from a more superior point of view or from an inferior point of view. You know, so-and-so is better than I am, but I'm better than this one over here. But when we relate to them as equals, that releases any power struggle, because nobody has power over or feels disempowered. So relate to them as my equal. So this next one is around including the family system when you're giving. So taking into account these patterns that they might have from their family. So what's needed here is something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7, 8. I include their family systems victims. Let's take a pause with that. I include their family systems victims. And what do you think that means?
Mm,
Yeah,
For
Leanne?
me,
Well, you don't really often know the victims of the other people, other family. That's,
Right.
so it feels pretty loaded because you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Shelby.
for me, with my son, I artificially inseminated him, and when he was 17, the mother that gave birth to him gave me 2 weeks notice, took him away, and then she didn't want us to talk. So it's her family and the way she did that, and then she brought him back, and my son wasn't nice to me. So what I'm trying to say is it's Jordan's other parent, the birth mother's family systems, what they programmed to him before he came back. And then he wasn't nice to me. That happened when he was 17 and he's 34 now.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
So how does that relate to this statement? I include their family systems victims.
Because I include when you said that, I heard them saying things to Jordan that weren't real, and it was part of them, and him digesting it and believing it.
Mhm.
So if I include it, then I could release it, is I think what I'm getting at. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, both what Leanne said and Shelby, what you said go hand in hand, because
Right.
oftentimes we don't know the family history. We don't know who their victims may have been. And we don't know in what ways the other person might be carrying those patterns and how those patterns might be affecting them. But when we take into account the fact that there are people in their family that have been hurt, that have passed on pain through the family line, then again, it opens us up to a wider range of perspective.
Yeah. When he was younger, he'd go to her house half the week and then come back to me, and it like took 2.5 days to watch him like have the energy of being at her house and then be at my partner and I's house. So I could definitely see it all the time, the
Mhm.
influence of the other.
Yeah, yeah. Good, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything you want to add to that? What might that mean? I include their family systems victims.
Yes, I'm feeling that if one has not resolved their own familial victimizations, that it's kind of a part of you, and unconsciously you're bringing it to all that you're relating to and involved with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so when we have the awareness that the other person may be carrying that kind of family history, regardless of whether we know the details of it, I think it opens the space for more compassion and for more understanding and acceptance, which is not to say, going back to what Leanne had, started in the beginning around, not to say that we make excuses or that we accept inappropriate behavior, but that it just sort of brings a more fuller perspective, and in that way, we can set boundaries without necessarily having to bring blame or to make the other person wrong. But we can say, well, this behavior doesn't work for me. And we can end the relationship if we choose, or we can open a dialogue.
Liz, what do you do when someone just, I was in a situation where I brought up something that had bothered me, and they understandably got upset, but when I said, let's talk about it, they just said, no, I can't do this, and left. And I mean, obviously this person is not introspective or able to engage. And so, you know, I just have to accept a more superficial relationship. But, you know, I often think because I'm doing all this work and have done all this work and, you know, I'm willing to process with people that I know, that not everyone is willing or able to open themselves to that. And that's a sad reality. And I've also had friends who have had very bad family situations and use it as a victimhood whenever they behave badly. And that's, you know, they're drawing the line, not you. So it is one of acceptance, but it is also, you know, sometimes we have to just protect ourselves. And that's really too bad. But, you know, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that, recognizing what the other person is capable of in terms of, whether they're open to discussing issues or not, that's a part of relating to them as an equal. Right. And then you make your decisions accordingly. If they're not open to dialogue, then, then you decide in terms of what you would like from the relationship. Do you want to continue on a superficial level, or do you want to release that person and maybe somebody else who is able to talk about things, maybe open the space for them to come in.
Right. But I think your point, and I came to that fairly recently, that our perception of things is only from our world of experience and our own family, or things that we've absorbed, or our own defects, whatever you want to call it. And that maybe probably someone else is seeing it from a very different view, rather than just, and that helps a lot, just like what you're saying, knowing like there isn't one right way to see things.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
everyone has their story, and everyone sees things differently. And I think that can help. I did with this person. I just realized that, their perceptions, although I feel, we're not fair, but they're coming from their experience, and that's, that's helpful to me.
Yeah. And that can create a more sort of coherent ending to a relationship too. Oftentimes relationships end in anger or heartbreak. But I think, from what you had mentioned, when you're able to just say, okay, this is the way they are, and it doesn't really match with the way that I am. And I think I'd rather have somebody that's more aligned with what I need in relationship. It's a more sort of gentle ending,
And actually, with one of them, I was able to just kind of go, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. I still do want this person in my life, but I just have let go of the need for the kind of relationship that I that I was wanting, and just accepting what is and knowing that person's limitations and not taking it personally. So that relationship has actually improved, but I'm still got my antenna out so that I don't get hurt again.
Mhm.
I don't allow a situation where this person's lashing out or whatever. I'm
Right.
sorry, I know I'm taking up too much of the session, but anyway, that's
Oh,
all I want to say.
no, thank you. That was helpful, I think. Thank you. Thank you.
Liz, I think that what I could see from everything you just did is that I have this place where I'm out of balance, and that is with my kids and stepkids. And so I can do that, come from equal with everybody else. But I have a feeling that as I clear that need to either be inferior or superior and just come from that middle space, that things could open up in ways, and I'm just open to whatever. Where right now I tell myself that's where I am, but I'm really not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's, I think that's a good point because, when you are the parent, it isn't an equal and it never will be. You'll always be the elder, right? And as you grow and they grow older, the relationship dynamic changes, but the core is you're still the parent. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, so how do you navigate that? How do you, maybe it goes to respecting them and their circumstances and their fate, their path. Right.
I try to pull all that stuff from my first, second, and third chakras into my heart, so that all of the roles I took on as a parent to teach them this and give them that and share with them something else, all of that, if I can bring it up to my heart, and that's what I'm working on now, and I think this is really going to help, then I can be equal with them, because heart to heart, we're two beings with love.
Right.
Parent to child, either I'm not a good enough parent, I made some mistakes and they blame me, or I'm more good because I'm weird and I'm ascended or whatever, all that kind of bullshit, pardon me. But I'm either going to get, I'm out of balance either way. And if I can get it all into the heart, and
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great perception. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Good. Yeah. So let's take a pause. And I'm just going to see there's something more we need to look at here. Yes. Okay. So it's something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7, 8. And so going right in line with what Morningstar said, the next pattern that we need to move into resonance with is I am loving. Yeah. And now we're going to look at the coherent pattern that we need to see in the other person. And it's something here from 1 through 10, 1 through 5, 6, 7. They are a wise and mature person. They are a wise and mature person. Good. So now, when you think about this person that you've identified for this repatterning, what would you like to give them?
love and support.
Yeah.
Energy exchange, spending time together, appreciating each other.
Nice.
Infinite unconditional love
Mm,
without evaluating their lifestyle or anything in it.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Tabitha.
A warm welcome to my home, wherever that's going to be, and just an enjoy as enjoyable a time together whenever we meet, rather than all the things I have been doing.
Right. Right. Elaine says love and more confidence. Yeah. I don't know. Can you give someone confidence? I don't know. Or does what you give maybe help them to feel more confident?
I think the word is acceptance. And then they do feel more confident because they're being accepted and well received.
Yeah, acceptance. Nice. Good, good. So now let's take a pause. We're going to do a modality to shift all these patterns so that we resonate with the positive, and then we turn off the energy around the non-coherent, the negative patterns. So the modality that we need at this time is something from A through E. It's A, B. Okay. We're going to order members of an organization. Interesting. So what is this about? So we haven't really talked about an organization. So organization could be a workplace. It could be a club that you belong to. I'm just going to check here. So there is an organization that we need to focus on with this. Not necessarily. Okay. So this is with a particular person. This is our relationship to relationships. Okay. Which is a little convoluted, but so our relationship to relationships. And my sense is this goes back to what Leanne had said in the beginning about sort of her perception being colored by past pain in relationships, right? So we carry the pain of our past relationships into our present relationships. And so this is a modality to help us shift our relationship to relationships. I mean, I hear people say all kinds of things about relationships. Relationships are hard. Relationships are messy. Relationships are a lot of work. Relationships are not very fulfilling. I'd rather just spend time in my garden or with my pets, things like that. So this is reordering our relationship with relationships, not necessarily a specific person, but I imagine that this will have a holographic effect on all of your relationships. So this modality, we're going to create a dialogue. And the first part of the dialogue sort of represents the current perception that is needing to change, or the current pattern. And so it's something here from 1 through 10, 11 to 20, 11 to 15, 16, 17. And so the statement is, I turn my back on you. And so think about how you might turn your back on relationship. Whether it's obvious or whether it may be very subtle. Sometimes we get into relationship and then we kind of reach a point where it doesn't deepen. So how do we turn our back on relationship? And then the next statement is the pattern that's needed to bring the shift. And it's 1 through 10, 1 through 5, number 1, number 2. You and I are equally valuable. You and I are equally valuable. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and center within yourself and allow or create an image that represents relationships. And as you hold that image, you say to it out loud, I turn my back on you. I turn my back on you. And now hold that image, and the image may even change as we do this. Now you say to relationship, you and I are equally valuable. You and I are equally valuable. You and I are equally valuable. I can be myself in relationship. I can be myself in relationship as I welcome the fullness of another. Good. And that's complete. And just notice what that feels like. So now I'm just going to go back. And all of those non-coherent patterns that we identified have been shifted in the session. Yes. And all of the positive patterns, the coherent patterns that we identified, have been turned on in the session. Yes. And is there any pattern that would be beneficial for us to focus in on at this time? Yes. Okay. It's one of these. It's this one, this one, this one, this one. It's I am loving. It's this one. Yeah. So as you move into your week, you can hold this intention in your heart and in your mind. I am loving. And as you move into your relationship interactions going forward, you can hold this in your awareness and think about some of the other patterns that we've identified that perhaps you don't want to be repeating in your relationship, so that you're able to be that loving presence, so that you're able to give only what benefits the other person, free of any control or power struggle or sense of over responsibility or making them wrong or feeling like you always have to tell them what to do. So that you can see them as an equal and relate to them as an equal. Only give to them what you have. Respect their circumstances and what they've lived through. See them as a wise and mature person. And see yourself as loving. Good. So, would anybody like to share any insights or have any questions before we close?
I feel like I turn my back on any possibility for a mutual relationship in that state of equality. And so lived in the, I'm not as good as, or I'm better than, always.
Yeah. So bringing that into equilibrium. Beautiful. Great. Thank you.
I actually physically turn my back, and then I ring this little wind chime, and then I turn back to this vortex and stepping into something new. That was really cool. So I physically went here and physically turned around and went there. Just an energy shift.
Nice. Yeah. Stepping into a new pattern.
Yeah, just like walking through another vortex.
Great. Great. Yeah. Good. Would anybody else like to add anything?
I feel more relaxed. There's a tension, a really deep tension that's just gone.
Beautiful. Yeah, that sense of relief.
Yes. And my issue was birth trauma, the deep, deep birth trauma. which keeps affecting things. And um, it's I can feel that the core is calmer, that I don't have to be in that constant giving place to earn my right to be alive. So that's cool. Thanks. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, very
Right.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I need to go.
Well, thank you, everybody. So I believe I'll be starting a new group in the fall. If you're interested in working on relationships through the lens of the family patterns, reach out to me. We can set up a time to talk. I think the group will most likely start in October. We shall see. So thank you, everybody. I will see you next month. Have a great month. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Liz.
You're
Thank
welcome. You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah, love and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me get out of here.